Hi class, it's Mr. Tsao, and in this video we're going to talk about the integer and functions benchmark. We're going to focus on the second half of that benchmark, which is on functions. In order to pass that half, you're going to have to successfully evaluate expressions using order of operations, and those expressions can contain the functions of squaring or exponents, square rooting, and absolute value. Before we get started, I want to do a quick review of order of operations. So one way to think about order of operations is the GEMS method. G stands for groups. You want to do the groups first. E stands for exponents. You'll do the exponents next. Then if there's any multiplication or division, you would do that in the whatever order. You don't have to multiply before you divide, as long as you just kind of go in order. And then lastly, any subtraction or addition. So let's look at an example. Let's say x equals -5, and we want to evaluate 2x plus 3. First, you would substitute your -5 in for the x to get 2 times -5 plus 3. So what are we going to do first? Are we going to multiply by the 2 or add the 3? According to GEMS, we're going to multiply before we do the addition to get us -10 plus 3, which you can use the number line or another method to figure out that the answer is -7. All right, next let's look at something using exponents. X equals -5. We want to evaluate x squared, or x to the exponent of 2, x to the power of 2. So we're going to substitute that -5 in, and you really should have parentheses. If you don't put parentheses in, it's going to mean something else. The parentheses is indicating that we want to square the entire -5, not just the 5 part, because up here we're squaring the x, and x is -5, so we have to square all of that. We have to take -5 multiplied by itself, -5 times -5, to get a positive 25. Let's try a little bit of a harder example. X is still -5, but we want to evaluate 3x squared. So we're going to input our -5 in for the x. And the question is, are we going to multiply 3 times -5 first, or are we going to take -5 and square it first? According to GEMS, we have to do the exponent first, -5 squared, to get 25. Then we can multiply it after by 3 to get 75 for our answer. Okay, next let's move on to square root function. The square root is figuring out which number multiplied by itself will get you that number. So first step, let's substitute the -5. And in this case, we want to do the group first. The group is anything inside this square root right now. We want to do this group of numbers first, 19 plus 2 times -5. Are we going to add first or multiply 2 times -5? We've got to multiply first. 2 times -5 gets us this -10. 19 minus 10 gets us 9. So from there, now are we going to multiply by 4 first or square root first? We've got to do the group first, the square root. The square root of 9 is 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. Then you can multiply that by the 4 to get the answer of 12. Last, let's go over an absolute value example. X is still -5. We're going to evaluate -4 times the absolute value of 2x plus 7. Let's substitute that -5 in. We're going to do the groups first, which is inside the square root. 2 times -5 plus 7. Are we going to multiply or add first? We're going to multiply first. 2 times -5 is -10. Add that to the 7, and we get a -3. So now we've got -4 times the absolute value of -3. The absolute value, if you remember, is going to turn any number or expression inside positive. So the absolute value of -3 is a +3. So this is actually going to end up being -4 times a +3. And a negative times a positive is negative. So -4 times +3 is a -12 for our final answer. All right, that's it.